Is your news night. 18 bulk oil distributors queue to take delivery of 152,000 metric tons of fresh consignment of fuel under the Go for Oil deal, with boss assuring you will this time feel the impact of price reductions at the pumps.
I can tell you on authority that we've had demand orders from 18 bulk distribution companies totaling almost 140,000 metric.
Now we'll hear from the transport unions. Will the unions reduce fares to match the expected price reductions? We'll find out here on Newsnight. Also tonight, majority leadership desperate to get their minority colleagues on board for approval of new ministerial nominees as they appeal to their NDC colleagues to ignore directive of the NDC to reject the nominees' latest ministerial appointment before Parliament's Privileges Committee. We take you to Parliament, where the Deputy Minister Designate for Trade and Industry, Stephen Amwa, has been justifying the splashing of Maslock funds on tables, as he says that is standard practice at the organization.
They do the public one with the bankers there. They actually dish out the money and the leaders of the group sign. So it is within the practice culture of Maslow.
And in business, Minister of State at the Finance Ministry designate Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam kicks against calls to use the Heritage Fund to support the economy in these challenging times.
And in sports, government postpones the 2023 All-Africa Games scheduled for August this year to 2024.
We have details from the worlds of business and sports for you later. Plus, today is settlement day for the domestic debt exchange program, with Finance Ministry assuring all bonds they have defaulted on, amounting to more than $4 billion, will be paid, quote, in the shortest possible time.
It must live by its way, but more important, not plunge us into a further default. A default that could actually risk us getting to the lowest of the low as far as rating agency scale is concerned. That will not help.
We'll be live tonight in Nigeria, where pockets of violence have erupted with less than 4 days to the general elections. We'll hear from the Inspector General of Police, who is promising to deal with those who have been arrested on the back of that. We will also hear from the Nigerian community in Ghana. Now, will they take part in elections, and who are they eyeing to take after two-term President Muhammadu Buhari?
Many people will not travel because there is no naira and there is no fuel.
And I'm sure every Nigerian is tired at this point. I see APC and PDP as the same group of people.
Obi is my candidate.
I want to hear from you, 055-1111-997. My name is Evans Mensah. 18 bulk oil distributors have made applications to the bulk oil storage and transportation company BOST for over 140,000 metric tons of the latest consignment of fuel under the Gold for Oil deal. BOST this week took delivery of the product and are expecting more in the coming days. Speaking to Joint Business in an interview, the managing director of BOST, Edwin Provençal, said consumers should this time expect to feel the impact at the pumps.
In terms of the status of the incoming cargoes for February, we are expecting a total of 152,000 metric tons, made up of 80,000 gas oil and then 72,000 gasoline.
Oh, okay. So give us a breakdown in terms of volumes of petrol and, of course, diesel.
The petrol is the gasoline, which is 72,000, and then the diesel is the gas oil, which is 80,000.
All right, so when exactly are we likely to see this?
So they'll start coming in from the 19th, which is somewhere Sunday, till the end of the month.
All right, so
every week we'll have two till the end of the month.
How will the sharing be done, and which companies will be participating?
In terms of the sharing, there's a regulator who is putting up a framework to ensure there's equity and fairness in whatever is coming in the distribution. So that question should be directed to the regulator. However, I can tell you on authority that we've had demand orders from 18 bulk distribution companies totaling almost 140,000 metric tons.
Or basically, how will the supply of these products impact on prices of petroleum products on the market? I know the first consignment, we've seen some impact already, but how will this also impact on the consumer?
I am sure you have seen that since the first cargo came in till date, oil has reduced their prices from almost 15.75 to almost 14.90 for diesel. And that should tell you that going forward, Ghanaians who are not in a good place today will have some respite with respect to reduction of energy prices with its attendant benefit on the inflation.
Well, we'll hear from GPRT pretty shortly on their own expectations, because really, if the prices go down, the pumps as the boss is expecting will happen without a corresponding reduction in fares. The benefit will not be transferred to majority of Ghanaians. We'll ask them what they make of this and their own plans for the future when it comes to the price reductions that boss says we should expect. But before that, let's hear from energy management strategist Dr. Yusuf Suleimana, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Dr. Suleimana, thank you for your time here on Newsnight. So when the first consignment came in, it was just over 40,000 metric tons. The impact on prices at the pumps was pretty minimal. I mean, we didn't see much there. Now we have 152,000 metric tons. You think that will make an impact?
And charity viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Yes, indeed, my understanding was that we were getting about 40,000 metric tons, and that I thought was just a drop in the ocean. So if it's going to be 152,000 metric tons, that's quite substantial. Because the first one, why it didn't make any impact was the fact that, if you look at the total consumption of the nation on a monthly basis, we are talking about 350,000 to over 400,000 metric tons on a monthly basis. So if you bring something like 40,000, if you do calculation, I think just about 10% of what the nation requires. And let's say on daily basis, if you want to quantify it, compute it on daily basis, it's going to be like 3 days. So that will be that was just not enough. So what with 152, yes, that can give us a window of opportunity to see how much it can impact. But we I think they set target to be able to meet, about 50% of the entire nation requirement by the end of March or by March. So in that regard, if we can get 152 now, we still need to get a couple of consignment. Another consignment in before March, to be able to meet the 50% of the nation requirement, which will be about, let's say, 175,000 to 180 or to 200,000 metric tons. If you want to quantify the 50% of what the nation requires. So, but all in all, I think if you get more coming in quantums and in subsequent, we shouldn't leave so much interval between one consignment to the other consignment. If you notice the 40,000, I think it fizzles out. I don't think the impact is there again. And so, if you have a consignment like this and we don't have subsequent consignment coming in, I think it's going to be a problem. But if they can meet their deadline, let's say to be able to meet about 50% of what the nation requires, by March, I think we could see some impact at the pumps.
Okay, so the word is, because it's 152,000 metric tons, the impact on price should be felt more significantly.
Yeah, sure. We should be able to feel the prices. And how are we going to feel the price? It's just the fact that if you look at the concept of this, gold to oil or petroleum product to oil, it's just to minimize the dependency on the greenback. We use closer to about 250 to 400 million on a monthly basis. And so let's say if they can meet 50%, it means that we only the pressure on the dollar will minimize. And so if you look at what the consumer pays at the pump, a lot of it currently is contributed by the exchange rate dynamics. And so if the pressure is minimized to the extent that, there is not much pressure, and then the cedi appreciate against the dollar, then that can cascade to the pump. But the bigger picture, Evans, is the fact that this is not the only factor that impact prices. We do have international price of the commodity. Let's say what the crude oil sells. That translates to what the commodity sells within the market. We don't have control over that. So that's why some of us are calling for the fact that this, and I want them to see this policy as an emergency measure to cap the heat that is in the market. But they should look beyond the policy. And this policy is not something that's going to keep us in perpetuity in terms of sustaining us, in terms of keeping cap on the dollar. No, we have other options that we can look at. But for the meantime, I think we can make do with it, and hopefully we should have the impact on the pump. And what I always say, Evans, is that the acid test should be that, are we going to have impact on the pump? That should be the acid test. If at the end of the day we don't have impact on the pumps, or on the pump, then that means that it's not a good deal. I only have a little bit of worry once also. I see a lot of information coming up from the petroleum side. So much massive and more clarity is coming up from the petroleum side. This deal is a parallel deal. We have the petroleum side and then the gold side. Any impacts on any of these chains, either the gold side or the petroleum side, it is going to be dire for the entire success of the program. And so how we are seeing the clarity in the petroleum side with NPA and BOST coming out to put the figures out there, with confidence that we're going to be able to have impact on the price. That is their part. What is the part of the gold side, the PMMC, Bank of Ghana? Can they assure the Ghanaian public that we can have this amount of gold that is required to be able to sustain this product? To sustain this program, however short it's going to be, that I think we need to do more, because that assurance is key. If we can't guarantee they're going to have uninterrupted supply or uninterrupted, production of gold that can meet this program, then it's going to be difficult. And I think
thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf Suleiman, the energy management strategist. I want to bring in the rep from the Ghana Private Road Transport Union. Samuel Amwa is with the GPLTU. Samuel, thanks for your time here on Newsnight.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening.
Samuel, so the BOST says we should expect, with the 152,000 metric tons of products now in the market, that the prices will go down at the pumps when your vehicles go to fill their tanks. GPLTU, should we anticipate reduction in fares going forward?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me use this opportunity to say good evening to your listeners. Yes, what we are expecting is, you see, every driver now, our expectation is to see the fuel prices coming down. That is what we are looking for. So as to, the arrangement that they are doing as to get some number of metric tons to the country and all that, they are mentioning it. But the ordinary driver is aiming at only one thing. That is to see the fuel prices coming down at the pump. That is what we are looking for. So all that we are saying is, if we find out that the fuel price is coming down to the level that we think when it gets to that point, we also can reduce our transport fares. Yes, we will do that. But they can't just, be mentioning, giving us assurance and all that, and then, we'll also sit, at the back and, think of reducing our transport fares. For that one, no. But what we are looking forward is to see the fuel prices coming down. Okay. Because if it comes down, that is where we also transfer it to the passengers. Because if it is up, there is no way we can also reduce the transport fares.
What percentage reduction will trigger a reduction in fares?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me take you down to when we had our 15.3 reduction. By then the fuel price the diesel was around 16.10. Yeah, that was when we did our 15.3 reduction. But when the fuel price, the diesel price was 11.30, that was when we also increased it. We increased it by 20%. Okay, from the 11.30, that was way back May last year. We increased by 20%. Then it increased up to 15.99 before we had our 20% increment again. So this time around, if it comes down to at least the diesel comes down to at least 11.30 below that, then we can also think of reducing our fares. Else, there is no way we can also reduce our fares, because if it is where it is now and they are pushing it to reduce it, it will go against our business.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Samuel Amwa with the GPRTU. Watch what happens at the pumps, possibly beginning from tomorrow, as we now have been told 18 BDCs have queued now. They've sent applications to take delivery of the 152,000 metric tons of the product that came in under the gold for oil barter deal, and we're expecting that they'll be selling it to the OMCs, your favorite filling station, and let's see what that translates to in terms of the actual reductions. We'll bring you the reports here once we begin to see it reflected as the boss has promised. It's still live, your news night is on Joy 99.7 FM. Tonight, barely 24 hours after talking tough and castigating the minority for announcing that they will reject the latest ministerial nominees, leadership of the majority have circled back and are now sending out an urgent appeal. Majority Chief Whip told journalists in Parliament that for the sake of unity and cooperation in Parliament, the new leadership of the minority must disregard the directive from the party to reject the nominees and approve them. Listen to another prayer.
I'm here to make an appeal, and I pray you convey my message in an undiluted form to the target appropriately. You are aware our colleagues in the minority, their party, has issued a directive that they should all go against the nominees for the various ministerial portfolios put out by His Excellency the President. And as was announced by Parliament duly, the Speaker and the appropriate referral done. Okay, so there have been back and forth arguments about the merits and demerits in this directive. I am just appealing to our colleagues. I am not basing my appeal on any constitutional provision. Of course, we all know the requirements, what it takes to become a Minister of State and a Member of Parliament. These things are spelled out clearly in the Constitution. I just want our colleagues to understand that for the sake of the unity and the desire for us to forge a working relationship, and this is their major decision, major in terms of the fact that, okay, since they come into leadership, this is the first time, more or less, they are going to make such a significant decision. On the House floor today, I made an appeal. Many of you I didn't see many of you in the gallery, I'm sure you were engaged somewhere, that they should so-called temper justice with mercy.
Let's go to Parliament. Kweku is my parliamentary correspondent. Temper justice with mercy? Did I just hear the minority Chief Whip indicate that the actions of the minority side is actually dispensing with justice, but they should look at that within the framework of mercy? Wasn't it just yesterday that Alex and Nathaniel Marking held a press conference and called out the minority side?
Indeed, exactly. Those were the words of Frank Anodompreh. But he went on to say that he thought that was probably not the best of expressions, but essentially the point he was making was that the minority should look at all the factors that he has put out and consider these nominees. But like you said, only yesterday, the deputy majority leader, Alexander Nathaniel Markin, said that the claims by the NDC that we were going to reject the new nominees that have been put out by the president had no basis in law, essentially calling their bluff.
It's a sign of disrespect to Parliament, a sign of disrespect to the Speaker. And clearly what the NDC is telling Ghanaians is that they don't respect the Constitution, and that the new leadership they just announced is not a type of leadership with ability to respect the Constitution, that they have no thinking caps. They themselves would be acting on the dictates of the party headquarters. Well, history is observing what they are doing.
Kweku, but the majority, they have the numbers, if it comes to it, to just get this approved. So why are they making this appeal?
It appears Frank Anodompreh has learned some crude lessons. When we put that question to him as to why they are not using their numbers, he said that he has learned from experience that when you try to use your numbers to railroad the process in Parliament, you do not come out of it the better.
I'm not too experienced and too old in leadership, but I've come to realize that the more you defeat your colleague with your numbers, the yawning the gap between the two of you becomes. So we engage in a fight. You're always beating me. You're always defeating me. You're always defeating me. So you're pushing me to a wall. And one day I'll strike. However I strike, I don't care. I have to also win. So it's not just about the numbers. Of course we can get our numbers. I'm looking more into the future, how we can work seamlessly and harmoniously together. That's what I'm looking at. As for the concern about downsides, and I've spoken to her that I'm not sure the president will turn a blind ear to it, but it has to be done holistically. You can't just get up and merge ministries. You need to do some proper thinking. And I hope as the narrative keeps coming up, the president will listen and also take some relevant action duly. Okay.
Thankfully, Ama Kofi Boa is the Deputy Minority Leader, joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Boa, thanks for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you. Good evening to your listeners.
So you had the appeal. What's your response?
Well, I think that the comment by Honorable Anodom Prayer probably is a little bit refreshing, a change from this macho talk by Honorable Afenyomat. And indeed, if the MPP, a government that quite frankly has run the country to the ground, a government that quite frankly has a lot of questions to answer. There has been a long list of calls from eminent Ghanaians, from civil society organizations to prominent members, the clergy, that this government is too bloated and that there's a need to cut down the size of government. And it becomes more necessary, especially at this crucial time where this government has made everybody aware, and it's very clear to everybody that we are in crisis. What an opportunity for this government when they had three major resignations from these three ministries, trade, agriculture, and the chieftaincy, to basically realign the government. 86 ministers. And we're saying that this is a clear opportunity to do that. The party takes this position. The minority in parliament sees the wisdom in that decision, and in keeping with the core and the interest of the people of Ghana, stands on the principal position that this government must reduce the size of government, as we will not, comply or appoint or support the appointment of these ministers. And then the only thing this deputy minority leader, who seems to be the spokesperson of the majority in parliament, is to say that the NDC does not respect the constitution and that we do not have our thinking caps on. I mean, this is quite frankly unfortunate. I have said it earlier that we will not go into the gutters with Honorable Afenyomat because we have reputations to protect. We also have a serious work to do to protect the interests of the people of Ghana. But you see, this is not the first time that a political party has basically issued a directive. I mean, recently you were here when you heard JFK, the General Secretary of the MPP, directing members of the MPP to walk out on the essential motion of the Finance Minister. You were in this country when the MPP, after a directive from the party, decided that they would not participate in the appointment committee's vetting of former President Mohammed's ministers because they were in court. I mean, but in this particular case, it is a call by the people of Ghana. And so it is a very principled call. It makes so much sense. This is what the people of Ghana want. And so the best thing you do is that you try to align it. If the government is so blinded, we have shown them the way. How long does it take to really align government? We say, look at the Ministry of Transport and Railways. Align that. Look at the Ministry of Tourism and Chieftaincy. Look at the Ministry of the other sectors, communication and information. These are real opportunities for the government to address that. And then go to the Flagstaff House and this long list of very duplication and appointments to reduce that.
So, do I hear you dishing out a clear rejection of the appeal that you just had there from the minority chief whip? This is a rejection. This is a rejection of that appeal.
No. What I'm saying is that our principal position will not change. I appreciate,
regardless of the appeal.
I appreciate the appeal by the chief whip. This is a clear departure from the macho talk and the disrespectful comments by Honorable Afenyo Martin.
But you still can't accept the appeal.
Well, it's a very principled position, and I think our position is in keeping with what the people of Ghana want at this point. I think it makes too much sense, and we cannot change it, and nobody will change it.
Mr. Makofi, however, if you look at the ministerial portfolios that will be affected, these are cabinet positions. In fact, cabinet positions are defined by the Constitution. For the president decides which minister will sit in.
Nobody. Did you hear me mention Minister of Agric and Minister of Trade? These are very critical ministries.
Yes, but you're going to reject them.
But you didn't listen to my argument. This government has too many ministers. They have too many men who, in some ministries, have 3 and 4 ministers. How do you appoint a minister to a ministry where there's a substantive minister? Explain that to me. How do you appoint a minister to a ministry where there's a substantive minister?
So you're talking about the Minister of State for the Finance Ministry. Is that what you're referring to?
And not only that, local government. Have not seen that? The local government deputy minister has been elevated to the minister at the Ministry of Local Government.
Yeah, does
it make sense to you?
Well, but so those are the related issues. But what about the agric?
So what we are
and
saying to you is that realign and move some of your men to the Ministry of Agric and Ministry of Trade and Industry. Don't add on to the bloated ministry that you already have.
So that vacancy, you want that vacancy filled with people who are already ministers?
Of course. That's the only chance you have. Or you can basically, you can do the adjustment in a way that does not increase the number. In fact, you need to reduce the 86 number. We've already drawn the line that we were not going to have ministers more than 65. This government is at 86 ministers. And that's the point. And so with this principal position, we are not only saying that because we want to. Look at the times we are in and give me one sacrifice that this government has made. You want to shift all the burden to the people of Ghana, but you do not want to take any step to sacrifice? How do you ask people who are on pension, who have worked so hard, to sacrifice? And you don't realize that this is the time to really cut government?
Thank you very much, though. That's Emmanuel Makofi Boa. He is the Deputy Minority Leader in Parliament. Grateful for your thoughts there. Do you agree with the minority position as expressed tonight in the back of the appeal that we've just had from the majority chief whip today, appealing to them to, as he put it, temper justice with mercy, return to the table, collaborate with them, approve the president's nominees whilst they still negotiate over the concerns? What do you stand on this? I want to hear from you on this. We'll get into your comments right after business. When I return, I will stay in Parliament for a while because the Deputy Minister Designate for Trade and Industry, Stephen Amwa, has been justifying splashing Maslow funds on tables, as he says that is standard practice at the organization. George Afis here with business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans. And coming up in business, we'll be getting from the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Designate Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, is kicking against the calls to use the Heritage Fund to support the economy in these challenging times. And some economists and analysts doubt the necessary lessons has been learned to prevent another debt exchange program. We hear more on the Joy Business Leadership program. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Alliance Live and Ghana Pay. Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Let's now settle for the details. Now, Minister of State at the Finance Ministry designate Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam is kicking against calls to use the Heritage Fund to support the economy in these challenging times. Dr. Adam was responding to questions when he appeared before Parliament Finance, that is, Appointment Committee, that is still going on with respect to deliberations and questions.
But that is the purpose of the stabilization fund. I know that it currently has some 800 million US dollars, but the law also requires that, I think after 15 years, I'm not sure, after 15 years from the establishment of the fund, we can spend the interest accruing to the fund, simply by simple majority in Parliament. And so I will recommend that we keep the Heritage Fund until when it is appropriate for us to spend it. That will also help us to build buffer. This is not the only problems we're going to have in this economy. Economies are cyclical. There are ups and downs, and so when we are, down, we could rely on the buffers like the Heritage Fund in future.
And that is the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry designate, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, answering questions from Parliament's Appointment Committee hearings that is currently ongoing in Parliament.
The action by
Now, ratings agency Fitch has downgraded rankings assigned to Ghana's Eurobond to restricted default from C. This was after government missed the grace period that it was supposed to pay coupon payments on this dollar-denominated bonds. There is more in this report.
Fitch follows an earlier warning that its ratings assigned to Ghana's Eurobond was a restricted default. Government on Friday missed out on paying $40 million coupon payment on its $1 billion 2026 Eurobond as part of suspension of payments on some selected bonds. This is more of a warning to investors that Ghana now finds itself in a position where it cannot meet its debt obligations. The move might not have any serious impact on the economy for now. This is because in December last year, it announced that it's freezing interest payments on its bonds due to the current challenges facing the economy. Fitch earlier this month also downgraded Ghana's ratings assigned to its domestic bonds to restricted default after government missed out on its coupon payment on these bonds. Government, however, maintained that it is hopeful these ratings will be reviewed when Ghana is able to secure an IMF program by the end of the first quarter of this year.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now, some economists and analysts doubt the necessary lessons and actions are being taken now to prevent the country from getting into another debt exchange program or debt cancellation. Now, these concerns came up during Joy Business Thought Leadership Program on the debt exchange program and the IMF deal, a do-or-die situation. Dr. Jepoma Jekedako is an economist, and she's worried that enough has not been done in the area of fiscal prudence.
We should ensure that we don't, we voice out when we see government actually borrowing going on a borrowing spree, the way it has done over the last few years. We should question. We should be able to question. We were all sitting quietly, like Senor was saying, and then watching all of these things happen. Now it's come back to bite all of us. So I think, and the reason why I said hope is that I'm hoping because over the years, how many times haven't we gone to IMF? This is the 17th time that we are actually going to IMF. So if we don't learn this time, then I don't really know when else we are going to be learning. We need to rationalize our expenditure. We keep talking about this. It hasn't been taken seriously over the years. We need to sit back and prioritize, think about what is important.
And that is Dr. Ejepoma Jekedako speaking on our Joy Business Thought Leadership Program that looked at the debt exchange program, the IMF initiative or deal for Ghana. Is it a do or die affair? Meanwhile, a financial consultant and investment analyst, David Tete, who was also on the panel, was worried about how this whole debt exchange program was structured.
Now, that was a shocker. I mean, for many people who have modeled their lifestyles around the coupon payments that they are expecting, because they have structured cash flows that are coming in, and they've modeled their lifestyles around these expectations. So that was a big shocker, where you wake up one day and you realize that an offer has been put on the table where you are not going to get any of the cash flows you expect. Secondly, we don't understand if it's voluntary and I don't take it up, what happens? There were no answers. So there were too many questions created when the first announcement was made, that there was more confusion in the market, than probably the advisors had anticipated. So everybody was scrambling for answers, and that caused the uproar.
David Tete is an investment analyst speaking on the Joy Business Thought Leadership Program, on the debt exchange program, and the IMF deal for Ghana is a do or die affair. Now, a government is set to replace the National Fiscal Stabilization Levy with a Growth and Sustainability Levy by the end of March this year. That is, if it's able to secure Parliament's approval. There is more in this report.
The National Fiscal Stabilization Levy currently charges at 5% levy on the profit before tax of some firms in the banking, insurance, telecom, and manufacturing sector. However, government claims as part of efforts to expand the scope of the growth and sustainability level. Government claims this has been necessary due to the adverse impact of the COVID-19 on the economy. The growth and sustainability level, which has already gone through the Finance Committee, government is hoping to place 5% on the profits before tax on the net income of business, or what some might call the accounting profits of banks. Based on the memorandum seen by Joy Business, this will target banks, insurance firms, manufacturing, and telecom companies. However, when it comes to mining firm and those in the extractive space, government is looking at placing 1% on their gross profit. The Finance Ministry is looking at 2.5 levy on their net income. Government is targeting to raise 2.2 billion cedis as revenue from this levy. If it's able to secure the required approval from Parliament, then it will start from the end of March this year.
That is the Business Desk report. Let's turn our attention to the stock market. And if you're an investor in Farm Milk today, you lost 20 pesos. And the value of each share that you're holding is 2 Ghana cedis, 30 pesos. So even it's an interesting development as we're all looking forward to the payment of the bonds that will be that has matured actually. And we hear that after February 21, the Ministry of Finance will be making some payments, and we are all looking forward to that event for the bond holders like you.
Yeah, well, I'm not affected when it comes to the outstanding payments.
Yeah,
I'm not affected.
Yeah.
But those who are affected, I'm sure they're waiting to hear more on this and see their money's in the account.
Yeah,
George, thank you very much. So listen to News Studies on Joy 99.7 FM. Let me take you back to Parliament, where several ministers have been vetted today. The Deputy Minister Designate for Trade and Industry, Stephen Amwa, says he did nothing wrong. During his tenure, funds belonging to Maslog were splashed on tables for distribution to some beneficiaries that were going to get it as loans. In the lead up to the 2020 elections, pictures went viral on social media showing Dr. Stephen Amwa, who then was a CEO of Maslog, and his deputies standing by a table with wads of money on it in what some described as a vote-buying gimmick. Well, that was put to him today. This was his reaction.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to humbly let my honorable colleague understand the fact that I've critically examined what I have here, and truly it's my picture and it's Maslog. Secondly, I would like him to understand the fact that every organization has its cultural and policies in terms of practices. We have different types of loans, and they are within the legal confines or environment of Maslog. First, the one that actually fits this picture, Mr. Chairman, is the group loan. Maslog was set up in the year 2006. To be honest with you, this thing has been going on throughout every regime up to now. The fact is that the group loan, we give each group constitutes about 25 applicants or beneficiaries. And sometimes you do a market that you get a number beyond 1,000. So the banks take the money, they get a very big size. If they can access a big hall, which is about 10 times we have here. They do the public one with the bankers there. They actually dish out the money and the leaders of the group sign. So it is within the practice culture of Maslow.
He also had questions to answer on some cars that were allegedly purchased under his watch as boss of Maslow.
Is it the case that Maslow engaged it to procure a number of vehicles without going through the appropriate procurement procedures?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this issue came out years back in this country, and it was proven that what my brother is saying was not so. I think I have to draw curtains on this issue here because of the nature of exercise that we are all going through. In the first place, the said company never imported for Maslow. That is never true. What happened was they approached Maslow when I was the CEO to bring vehicles, not for Maslow to pay, but they wanted to use Maslow as a medium so that Maslow could, even as at that time, government had not even released money. We had not even imported any car. So we actually started engaging them. Then I spoke to the PPA boss. And then he said that he thought it wise, there wasn't anything bad with it, but he thinks it's not good to allow a private company to procure and use Maslow as a platform. Mr. Speaker, we just cancelled the processes that we had started. We never ever had any imported cars by Dextro. And I think the papers are there. I mean, they can check.
Well, the current economic crisis was also a subject for many on the appointments committee who also grilled him on his thoughts on how the crisis could be dealt with.
Days ago, the IMF boss, her statement underpins the fact that all the statements I've been making and my respectable honorable member is asking, I am in a way exonerated because she attributed the challenge of our country to Russia and Ukraine war. Secondly, Chairman, I think we have two main periods of this government or categories. First, preceding COVID and the war, what were the primary micro indicators? We're growing averagely 7% a year. In fact, lending rate have been reduced from almost 40% to 20%. Policy rate, which is the government interest rate, had been reduced from about 25.5 to about 12. Treasury bills had been reduced within the same period and maturity dates from almost about 25.2 to about 14%. You can count all these things. In fact, even interest payment, which is leading to most of our challenges today, started increasing from 2012 to 2016. And between 2016 and 18, they started reducing and started going up 2019. So everybody will attest to the fact that when these two global crises, I mean, talking about the Ukraine-Russia war and then the COVID, the global value chain got affected adversely.
And that's the Deputy Trade Minister designate Stephen Amwa. With only 4 days to go, there has been an increase in attacks on police in Nigeria ahead of the presidential elections on Saturday. Since the weekend, 7 officers have been killed in the southeast of the country, where a separatist movement is seeking autonomy. Coupled with the scarcity of cash, pockets of violence have erupted in parts of the country as many queue for hours and sometimes days to withdraw money from their banks. The police have vowed to deal with perpetrators. Listen to the IGP, Usman Akali Baba.
We are to police the election from those who believe that they can behave as adversaries, those who either do not want the election to take place or are all out to sabotage the process. We have also stated in many of our forums that non-quasi-security organizations that are created by either individual groups or state governments are not part of policing the election.
But who takes after President Muhammadu Buhari, who is stepping down after nearly 8 years in power? A total of 18 candidates are campaigning for the top job, but polls have put 3 in the lead: All Progressives Congress, APC, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the Labour Party. With less than 4 days to go, we've been speaking to the Nigerian community in Ghana on the assessment of the Buhari administration and their opinions on latest happenings in Nigeria. They spoke to my colleague, Michael Ashale.
In just a few days, Nigerians will have to go to the polls and elect a new president that would take after Buhari, who has been in power for nearly 8 years. I am speaking to some of the Nigerians in Ghana and taking the assessment of the Buhari administration, and again, what the make of the elections. What are the key banners that they are looking out for? I have with me Casey here. Casey, so I mean, we've had a little bit of a conversation, but I'm surprised that I'm in the Nigerian community and I find a lot of you around. Is it that you are not interested in elections? Nobody's going back?
No, of course we are. Of course we are. But you know, the recent policy the current APC government actually put in place is going to affect people because the scarcity of the redesigned notes, and it's going to make, because most of the poor masses traveling are going to need cash, because it's what's happening in Nigeria now is that people are buying naira with naira. To get the new notes, you actually have to suffer. It's not about we want a change in government, and we're actually tired of APC. There's no money to travel.
Casey, I'll come back to you and ask you what you make of the Buhari administration. I've heard you pass a little bit comment on that here. I have Austin. Austin, so why are there so many Nigerians still around?
Actually, nobody's against voting or not voting. Every average citizen is very much happy to vote. But right now, the situation of the economy is very, very devastating. Many people will not travel because there is no naira and there is no fuel. Many people have the reason that maybe you can travel and choke in there.
Casey, Buhari has been in power nearly 8 years. What do you make of his administration?
You know, it's funny because, you know, as at 2015 when he was coming, he came with the change mantra, you know, coming to fight corruption and, you know, coming to lift our economy. But the crazy thing is that things have gone so bad. They've gone from bad to worse, you know, and I'm sure every Nigerian is tired at this point. He's tired.
Austin, changing government or you want APC to still be in power?
Boss, for me, APC government is a disaster. I say it and I'll continue to say it. These people came with bogus promises. They promised Nigerians heaven and earth. And along the line, the case was the reverse. People cannot eat. There is nothing like security anymore. No light. People are just dying anyhow. And the governments are relaxing.
But what are the key things that you are looking out for? What are the key things the next president must have or candidate must have for which you'll be voting for him or her?
Number one, APC, we have tested APC. It's like we have APC, they are like wives for years. And they come up with disguising behaviors. It won't work like that. Before you vote for somebody, you have to check who he is to people, considering the simplicity and the humility. So these people called APC don't even bring their matter to me. Well, I'm considering PDP and Labour Party. Between these two, but if you ask me, I'll say P2B should go. He's a very nice man.
There are about 18 candidates in this particular elections, but 3 front runners. Casey, he's mentioned Labour Party, Peter Obi. He doesn't like PDP just like, not PDP, APC just like you. Where do you stand in this? 18 candidates.
Well, I think no sane thinking Nigerian should be happy with APC for now. You know, as long as you're okay and you're right thinking, you shouldn't be happy with what APC have done to the country. But then, I see APC and PDP as the same group of people. You know, he was once a PDP member from as far back as 2002. He's been in PDP. From PDP, he moved to APGA. From APGA to PDP, and then when he found out he wasn't going to win the primaries, he now moved to Labour Party. So I don't see consistency in that.
Very interesting conversation there among Nigerians who are resident here in Ghana. I want to take you to Nigeria right now. Let's speak to Kayla Megwa. She is a correspondent with Channels Television, and she joins us on the telephone on Zoom right now. Hello, Kayla.
Hello, good evening.
Great to have you join us tonight, Kayla. You just heard in the background the Nigerian community in Ghana debating very vigorously about the campaign leading up to the election. So that's the debate in Ghana. What's the debate in Nigeria with tonight, 4 days to go?
Well, it's pretty much the same conversation going on. You know, a lot of people tired of the government that has been in power for the past 8 years. And then, of course, it's interesting to hear from the people in the background, you know, talking about, you know, how there isn't much of a difference between both parties, you know, that's the PDP and the All Progressives Congress, and then the promise of a new renewal from the Labour Party. There are 18 candidates, so that's 18 political parties with 18 different ideologies. So, and the thrusts in their campaigning and in their promises to the Nigerian people. So, yes, it's a very similar conversation going on in Nigeria. And of course, the same frustrations, the economy, insecurity, talking about some of the major issues that Nigerians are dealing with right now. Of course, the Naira redesign policy is something that a lot of people are talking about right now and how it's affecting, you know, people's livelihood. You do have to forgive me a little bit. We are in the newsroom, so there's a lot of movement going on here. But yes, a very similar conversation in Nigeria.
Okay, so what are the dominant issues now? I've heard you mention the economy and then there's security. Are these the two topmost issues on people's minds, and that may define the outcome of the elections come Saturday?
Absolutely. The economy has been of great concern. We're looking at how, you know, this particular redesign policy might actually cause some kind of inflation. We're seeing economists talking about that so as a possibility in recent times. There's also the fact that, you know, a lot of people just do not have the money that they need in their hands. Good policy or not, that's something that's going to impact on how people see the candidates that are coming in. And then, of course, insecurity. We've had so many kidnappings over the years, over the course of 8 years. I remember one of the reasons why President Muhammadu Buhari was loved by many at the time when he came into office was because of the promise of fighting insecurity. The Goodluck Ebele Jonathan administration was perceived to have failed in securing the nation, you know, at the time we were dealing with the Chibok kidnappings. But since they came into power, we've seen several kidnappings. There's Dapchi, there's one in Niger, there's so many things going on. We've even seen attacks on our rail infrastructure. You know, it seems like it's a lot worse now than it was before. They would argue that, you know, critical infrastructure like places in Abuja are more secure now than they were in the administration before they came in. But it's something that keeps a lot of Nigerians awake at night, finding a way to make sure that our country is safe and that we feel safe in it. So the economy and security, and then the big one, the unity of the nation. We are at a point in Nigeria where we are divided among ethnic and religious lines more than ever before. So we have a situation where many Nigerians are looking forward. In fact, when you listen to the election observers and even diplomats who speak on this particular election, the country, they say, needs a leader that will unify the country. We have to now come back to being Nigerians and forget our sentiments and how we feel about this person's tribe or this person's religion, and actually just focus on national growth and development. Those are the major areas that are being talked about right now.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful that you could join us tonight, give us a sense of how the elections are building up into Saturday, and we'll be hearing more from Kayla in the coming days as she joins us with the very latest on the ground. Ms. Bao is here with sports.
Yes, Evans. Well, the local organizing committee has announced the postponement of the 2023 All-Africa Games scheduled for August 4th to 11th this year. The games had been hampered by delay in the completion of facilities and disagreement between the African Union Association of National Olympic Committees of Africa and the Association of African Sports Confederations. And however, despite the resolution of the impasse between the stakeholders, local organizing committee says the impact of the disagreement has been adverse, forcing them to postpone the games to next year, 2024. However, no specific date has been given on when the games will come off next year.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bao, for that quick update when it comes to the world of sports. And just before we go, as you may know, today is a settlement day for the domestic debt exchange program. The finance ministry has been assuring today that all bonds that they've defaulted on, amounting to more than $4 billion, will be paid in the shortest possible time. The expectation is that the processing will start from tomorrow.